will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting and the hearings will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. This meeting will be recorded by the local scene, formerly known as pac-tv. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by viewing the Duxbury Government Access channels, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9. Viewers can also visit the localscene.media/Duxbury for more information about Duxbury programming, including streaming and watching replays on Duxbury YouTube. With that, I call this meeting to order. Our usual first item, I'm going to pause for a second here. Dave Philbrick, a longtime resident of Duxbury, passed away on November 19th. Dave was an integral part of the Conservation Department's team for over 3 years in the role of land management assistant. He took on this position in retirement after a distinguished military career in the United States Navy, followed by work in the private sector with Ernst & Young. Growing up in Maine, working in the woods of Duxbury felt like a full circle moment for Dave. As the land management assistant, he was responsible for maintaining over 3,400 acres of conservation land, which included more than 50 miles of trails. If you have walked on our trail system, you have likely encountered his handiwork, whether it be paths he cleared or the countless bridges, boardwalks, and benches he built or repaired. He often undertook special projects, including helping to reestablish the Island Creek Fish Run or reviving wooden signs on all of conservation properties. And he always enjoyed working at the annual Christmas tree sale at Jaycock's Tree Farm. Our thoughts and prayers are with Dave's entire family during this difficult time, including his wife of 35 years, Elaine, and his children, Sydney and Adrian. Dave was a kind soul with a big heart, and he will be greatly missed. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. Now, the second item on the agenda, the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we have open forum. If anybody has an item they'd like us to add to a future agenda, you may step to the podium, but I will offer board members an opportunity if there's something they want to raise during open forum. Anyone? Go right ahead, Brian.
Two things, Mr. Chairman. First, by way of update to comment or a question I had asked Rainey last meeting about the drought conditions and potential threats on our town woodlands. As luck would have it, the day after our meeting, the outside burning ban was lifted. And Chief Reardon was kind enough to offer his department services in the event the town had any concerns about particular areas of the town forest of being dangerous. And I've heard nothing from anyone about particular areas. It was more of a general concern, but I'm happy to follow up if folks think that certain areas need to be looked at. The second issue is regarding speed and traffic enforcement. My last update to this board was that Chief Carbone was going to provide me with some information. We'd crunch some numbers and then come back. I'm having a meeting with the chief tomorrow to go over some of the figures and data, and we'll see what they tell us. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else for open forum? All right. Anybody from the public? There being none, I will move on. New business. We have, wait, 10 seconds more. We have a public hearing at 6:35. It's a discussion regarding a Class 2 used car dealer's license application. Mr. Ed Walsh doing business as Run Deep Resources located at 12 Wicked Hill. I'll take a motion from that, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, I move that the Select Board open the public hearing regarding the Class 2 used car dealer's license application for Edward J. Walsh, DBA Run Deep Resources.
Second.
Requires a roll call vote.
Fernando, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye.
Amy, aye. Cindy, aye.
Thank you. All right, so the discussion here will be, we'll kick it off to the applicant. Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you mind coming to that podium? That, it's not a microphone, it actually allows the public that's watching at home to hear. We'll tee you up a little bit here.
Good evening.
Could you just introduce yourself and where your business is going to be located and what it's for?
Sure. Ed Walsh, lifetime resident of Duxbury. I will be operating my business primarily from my residence at 12 Wicked Hill. It is going to be an online-based used car dealer service where I'll be essentially maximizing the inefficiencies in the market by locating vehicles that are priced at a point that may be more attractive to buyers and attractive to sellers.
Why do you need a car dealer's license for something like that? I'm just curious.
Great question. For legal purposes, in order to convey title, I must have a dealer's license, and in order to correctly register income and revenues.
I'm going to let my board ask some questions. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so basically you'd be operating out of your house, and what difference will it make to the neighbors about your property? Will they see any difference in having a used car dealership at 12 Wicked Hill?
No difference whatsoever. It'll be completely online based. There will be no presence of vehicles other than personal vehicles at the residence.
Right. So how do you conduct your business then? Is it how do people come and take a look at the car, and how do they test drive it? How does that happen in your business?
Sure. Well, with the advent of online services, there are many different resources available. There are online auction sites such as Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, as well as smaller, more local-based online services like Facebook and things like that. So what I would aim to do would be to find a vehicle of interest that I could perhaps know somebody who would want one, or that I would feel that I could easily rotate through the market through, generally it would be directly to auto auctions.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, a good example is if I was to find a car, let's say it was a private party sale, and I thought it was a good deal, and I thought for very little it could be reconditioned and sold for a profit, I could purchase the vehicle, recondition it, whether it would be at a commercial spot where I would rent to do just that, or through a local car dealer, like the one at Bennett's here in Duxbury, and then bring it to the auction that same week or the next week.
So if you're selling it to a private person, then they would go to the location where you're having the car stored or repaired or refurbished. Is that
Sure.
what I'm
So
hearing?
part of my business plan would be actually to have a white glove service where I would have a delivery mechanism to bring the vehicle to the purchaser, allow them to test drive it, do so in a neutral situation. Typically would be at their convenience, at their office, at their home, to provide them with the ultimate inconvenience, whereas they wouldn't have to take time from work and be otherwise put out.
Have you heard anything from your neighbors? Have they reached out to you? Have they? This is a public hearing. I'm just wondering if anybody's reached out to you.
No. My neighbors, one of my neighbors, we both enjoy cars and get along well with that. My other neighbor is not interested in cars, but not interested in anything that I'm doing in a negative manner whatsoever.
Okay.
We have a nice little neighborhood.
All right, excellent. So I have no more questions.
Go right ahead, Amy.
I'm struggling a little bit just to kind of clarify what Fernando's asking. If you purchase a vehicle that you think someone might be interested in, and you're going to have it detailed or looked at it at a local dealership, and then whether it's delivered, I have trouble thinking that all those things can fall into place without the vehicle needing to be at your property at 12 Wicked Hill for any length of time. I think that's my biggest concern, is that, you know, your residence does not have, and I understand that you'd probably have to use some kind of a temporary plate, or they'd be registered, but I think that to be mindful of the people in the area, I would want, I would like to know kind of how you will prevent even an overnight stay, you know, the vehicles being at your home.
Okay, sure. So the vehicles that I would be interested in purchasing would not be considered vehicles that needed a lot of work. So essentially, if I was getting it ready for sale, it would be more cosmetic, so detailing, things like that. Nothing to do with mechanical repair or body repair, anything along that nature. Many times when you purchase a car from an auction, not necessarily from a private party, but the same is true with the private party, they do have storage options. So for the local auto auctions around here, you can store a car there for a week or two. You can have the car worked on while it's there. So it doesn't have to have any, you don't have to take custody of it. If there was a time that I did need to take custody of it, for whatever reason, whatever inclement weather, whatever the reason may be, I do have space in Kingston, commercially zoned space in Kingston, that I can leave it there, and that's on a lease basis. So.
Okay, good. That's good to know. And then there was I have one more question. There were several references to other properties, St. George Street Garage being one of them. What is the plan with St. George Street? Nothing? No, that wasn't the first one? Okay,
it's a
sorry.
separate item, I believe.
Oh, separate item?
Yes.
Okay. How many car
When it rains,
dealer
it
things
pours.
do we usually do in a year? And we both have them 2 times in one night, so.
Go right ahead, Brian.
Thank you,
sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Could you take me through your advertising? So if I'm a customer, like, how do I find out about you? How do I contact you? How does that work? And will it be signage at your house?
Well, mandatorily, there needs to be signage. It would be discreet at the minimum size, bearing in mind that I would not have customers to the residence. There is a minimum signage requirement by the state. In terms of advertising, being online, everything would be done through an auction medium. So as I mentioned, something through, say, Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer. It's a service that you hire, and they publish pictures, and they help to curate the auction and bring the seller and the buyer together. So other than that, it would be word of mouth. So if I've always kind of been known in my family and my circle of friends as the guy to go to if they need a car, and so it would be along those lines as well. So I think that in terms of overall turnover, in terms of how many cars per month that I would anticipate rotating through, it's not a high number. This would not be a particularly high velocity business. It would be more of a custom business that would be designed to a specific audience of vehicles that tend to have folks that have a very defined interest in the car. So maybe closer to exotic cars or more limited production vehicles.
Okay, so your website, for example, wouldn't say, come see me at 12 Wicked Hill?
No.
Right, okay, thank you.
Nancy, I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind answering them.
Oh, me? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
And I might need to get you a microphone. The first one being, it says in our packet that you and Jim met with the applicant. What, if any, concerns did Jim Wozlewski have regarding this property? Like, what kind of questions was he asking?
Same questions you.
I might have to borrow you. Yeah, I'm sorry, Nancy.
That's all right. Right, the same questions you had was the concern about having vehicles at the residence.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim was satisfied from meeting with Ed that there were going to be no vehicles either stored or sold from that property, from his property.
Okay.
And he has no other employees, it's just him.
Now, if we sign off on this this Class 2 license, could in the future he have vehicles on this property, or would it have to go back to Jim?
He would have to go back to Jim,
Okay, because he would need a special permit of some sort?
correct, yes,
Okay.
if it's even allowed, yes.
All right, thank you, that's all. Sorry to put you on the
Before
spot.
she goes,
Yeah, Nancy.
Nancy,
Nancy?
before you go,
Oh, jeez.
did,
On the hot seat.
did the question of a sign come up at all during the meeting with the building inspector?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So a sign is required, Brian?
Well, but a sign has to go through a special permit with the zoning board of appeals.
Right.
I don't understand why you would need a sign.
Yeah, so is a Class 2 auto dealer needs to have a sign outside his business? Is that the requirement?
I don't know what you're referencing.
Yeah, so where do you see the sign bit?
That's what Mr. Walsh said.
Yes,
Said
you
he
have a
needed a
minimum
sign.
sign.
Oh, right. I missed that one.
Now, what is a minimum sign, to your understanding?
To
Like
my
something on your
understanding,
mailbox?
yes, it's a sign that offers business hours, phone number, nothing much more than that, and it's located inside of the office, which I have a dedicated spot.
Oh,
so-
it's inside
Oh,
the
it's
office?
Yes,
inside.
yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
It's not outside the house?
No, it's no flashing lights or anything.
Okay. All right.
It's inside the office?
Definitely
Okay.
not be.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that clarifies that question
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
I'm ready for a vote. Is everybody ready for a vote?
Yeah.
Anybody from the public have any questions or concerns? All right. Anybody on Zoom? Zoom world? There being none, happy to take a motion.
I move that the Select Board approve and issue a Class 2 used car dealer's license to Edward J. Walsh, DBA Run Deep Resources, located at 12 Wicked Hill, for online sales only, no vehicles to be stored or displayed at 12 Wicked Hill, and also contingent upon the submission of all required application materials in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 140, all associated fees, surety bond in the amount of $25,000, and final inspection and permitting by all appropriate town departments.
Second.
Requires a roll call.
Fernando, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye.
Amy, I.
Cindy, aye.
I move that the Select Board close the public hearing regarding the Class 2 used car dealer's license application for Edward J. Walsh, DBA Run Deep Resources.
Second.
Fernando, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye.
Amy, I.
Cindy, aye.
All right. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Appreciate your time.
best of luck.
All right. Next, we have another public hearing, and we are on time for that one as well. Discussion regarding a Class 2 used car dealer's license application from Mr. Michael Staples, St. George Street Garage, located at 260 St. George Street.
I move that the Select Board open the public hearing regarding the Class 2 used car dealer's license application for St. George Street Garage LLC.
Second.
Requires a roll call.
Fernando, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye.
Amy, I.
Cindy, aye.
Right. And Mr. Staples. All right. And I would like to hear from you. Go right ahead. What would you like to do at this location, and what are you seeking?
Looking to get my
Sorry,
Class
your
2.
name
Introduce
and
yourself.
address, please.
Oh, Mike Staples, 260 St. George Street Garage. Looking to get my Class 2 dealer license for a temporary dealer plate, so I can drive these vehicles and test drive them without registering them. Also, to be able to pass it on without taxing and titling a vehicle,
Okay.
and going to auctions and looking at used vehicles to purchase.
Got it. And we have a map, but if you could, I don't know if we can put that up on the screen, but I think most people are familiar with the garage. Where would these be stored and located?
So they're going to be located at 260 St. George Street.
Right.
It's a 1.78 acre lot, so plenty of room. We can, the ones that are not being put out for sale can be behind the building, which
Right.
is plenty of parking out of sight.
Yep.
And the ones that will be for sale will be lined up along the fence that's where they previously were. There has been a Class 2 dealer's license there for many years. It just was not renewed back in 2017. Just the owner was, not interested anymore. So now that I'm the new owner, I'd like to start it back up. I've been there for 18 years, so I've seen it, done it. So looking to just get all the proper paperwork and everything to get my license plate and
Yeah.
move forward.
Board members, go right ahead. If anybody has some questions.
Yeah, so is it the whole, is 260 George Street, everything? Because there used to be a motorcycle garage, and then there's a car garage, and there's a detailer, and then there's the Barney's, the gas station, is it?
You
is
got it, yep.
That's all of it?
Yep, that's all of it still there. So the old motorcycle shop,
Yeah.
that would be like the office where I'd, keep the used car thing. So that'd be like separate over there.
Right.
And that fence right next to it would be where I'd line the cars up, and that's the map that you guys have. And there's the two different size parking spots for smaller cars or larger vehicles. Not saying that there'll be that many all the time, sometimes.
Right.
but-
So the garage that's there will stay? Is that part of your business, or that's another business?
Yeah, I own it. I'm the lead mechanic.
Oh,
and
okay,
the
all
owner.
right,
Yep.
cool. And then the detailer will be there as well, right?
Yep, he's still there at the
He's
end,
still-
yep. So
okay.
I figured it would be a, nice package, you get the
Right.
detail guy to clean them up.
Yeah.
I can fix them.
Yeah.
Move them over the other side and sell them.
All right. And there's no problems with your butters about having the cars against the fence, that there's offices and shops on the other side?
No,
There's been nothing
all
at
my
all?
customers.
That's a good thing.
And this used to be, I haven't been in Duxbury, or not as long as a lot of people here, but this was a used car dealership before, right?
Yes, sir. The sign's still on the fence.
And so,
Not that we've been selling any, but the sign's still there, yep.
all right, so it is not too much of a, basically, there's no change to what it used to be then?
No, just basically trying to get it switched over to my name.
Okay,
Go
all
right
right,
ahead.
that's the questions I have.
Is there a maximum amount of cars that is part of this permit? Like, more than X amount?
20, he applied for
20. So, because you had said you'd use the overflow parking in the back.
Yeah, just, ones that, if I put them behind the building or whatever, I just wanted to make sure I asked for enough rather than ask for 5 and then have to come back and say, hey, can I get 10? So I figured if I asked for 20, I could never see me having more than that, so.
Okay. I think that's because similar to, my concerns of the previous one. That would be my concern, is that there would be, a lot of cars. You see that kind of happening at some of the garages, and, there's some cars and then there's more and more.
Yeah, I've
and
seen a
they're
garage in
trying to
town that there's so
shuffle-
many, I couldn't even imagine how you
shuffling
drive through the
them
place.
around
No,
and,
I would not want it to be like that. So that's why I was saying that, if there's any if I wound up with, up to 20, which probably wouldn't be the case, but if I did, I could always put them behind the building.
And just looking at your map, there is room for 20 vehicles out front? Is that?
Oh,
On the
yeah, yeah,
wall.
we got, yeah. It's, now that I'm looking at my own map or whatever, there's, where it says, to the right-hand side of the garage, there's parking all the way up along the sides and all the way across the front.
Yeah, I see about 25 maybe out front. Are those 2 yellow squares out back? In your
That
drawing?
was like, so that parking technically goes all the way along the back and beyond where the pitches you can even see. There's a berm that goes around the whole property, for like privacy. You can't see any of the houses or anything. No one would even be able to see without an aerial view the cars.
Okay.
But on the right-hand side of the map where it has the color-coded standard compact customer employee,
Yep. I
that
see.
all the way up that wall to the street is all parking also. And then where you see some of the cars parked out in front of the garage, that goes all the way across too.
Yeah.
So there is quite a bit of parking.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
So you own Barney's, the gas station as well?
Yes, sir.
And then also you've been redoing that building there on the right-hand side?
Yes, sir.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep, yeah. So I couldn't tell you how many people stopped, and first it was Barney and the Candy Story. If I had
Oh,
it
yeah.
off every time I heard that, we'd be all set. But, yeah, so I heard all the stories about that from local people walking, and I couldn't even tell you how many people would just go by, thank you, on their way by. Okay.
It's,
Yeah,
it
you're
was
welcome.
and
heard a lot
there's
of
still
stories
a
about
telephone
cameras.
there. I don't know,
I've been in there
is
a
that
number of
telephone
times.
still there?
The telephone was there. I actually dug it up and I gave it to Emmett Shee, and he's gonna put it over at his house for, I don't know, conversation piece, I
Conversation
guess.
piece, yeah. Yeah, it was Bell. You know, remember Bell? Yeah, it was a Bell telephone. Interesting. Okay, thank you, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Just a question,
right ahead.
not specific to this application, but to the site. So does this have to go to planning board for site plan as well? And for the sign? Change of use?
Is there going to be a new
Is it a
sign?
change of use? It's the same use,
I don't know.
unless it was more than 2 years ago, right? Was it more than 2 years ago? It's
It's
been,
2017.
2017, the previous owner didn't renew the bond.
so is it going to go to the planning board for, yes?
Well, that's why I think we need to continue this, and I
Oh.
can speak with Mike about this, because Jim Wazalewski wants to have further review
Okay.
to see if it needs that.
Okay, so we're not going to vote on it tonight then, is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
All right.
It'll be easier next time you're back.
Yeah. No, I didn't have any questions. I just,
I don't really.
I bought a used car from Sid years ago, right along
yeah,
that
yeah.
wall.
Yeah, so you're very familiar with it, yeah?
I'm very familiar with
Correct.
it, and it works.
I think so.
Well, yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead, let's finish.
No, just, it's, yeah, it's good to see it coming up again.
Yeah,
It does work.
excellent. If you have a question, you can certainly ask it at the microphone. They can't pick it up on the TV.
So my only question is,
A name and
and
address,
address.
please.
sorry, Paul Baker, Back River Way. So I know that the neighbors in Back River, seeing this notification, have a lot of concern.
Okay.
But I think the question is just understanding it. And I guess my question is there any plan change to the footprint of the parking space, any removal of trees, any sort of physical change to the construct?
And I don't know if you can answer it, and I can give them this while you're maybe talking about it. So what we have in our packet. Thank you. And you can answer that question.
And all the information that we received is available to you. You can just contact Nancy. She'd be happy to give you all of the information.
So the answer to that, there's no change to the footprint, there's no change to the parking?
No, all the parking is just the pavement. I actually, in that berm I was talking about, I do own beyond that, so, I'm not looking to change anything, but I could push the property back quite a ways and take out all the trees and move it back, but I'm not planning on doing any of that.
Yeah, and you've only requested 20 spots anyway?
Yes,
20
yeah.
cars, yeah. All right.
20 spots that should be, I mean,
Already in there.
if that's a concern of the neighbors,
Yeah.
hearing that, I mean, we could require the spots to be out front, except, I think if that's a concern.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that berm's probably 12 feet high, so there's no way you could really even look in the back.
There's probably a high water table back there too, I think.
Randy, what will be the next date?
Groundwater's at 26 feet, because I just had all the groundwater tested when I purchased it.
Well, we are unfortunately going to have to continue this, it sounds like, so.
I'm getting a date, and I'll make a motion.
Yep.
What's that?
I'm getting a date, the continued date.
Great. Do we have a date?
I'm getting one.
Ton of paperwork to get these,
16th.
January 16th?
going through all this.
No, December. Sorry, December
December
16th.
16th.
Okay.
Is that going to be enough time?
Well, if they recess it to a date and time specific, they don't have to warn it again.
Right.
But
I don't know.
But rather than
I
have
didn't talk-
everybody come back,
I didn't talk to him. What did Jim say? Did he tell you anything?
Well, if it has to go to zoning, but I can talk to Jim tomorrow.
Oh,
We may have to go to the ZBA, right?
Well, it might have to
Well,
go
he's
to the
got a-
planning
well,
board
probably
for site
planning
plan
board.
review.
Okay.
For site review.
might be better to close it and rewarn it. Be more
are we
convenient.
meeting on the 23rd?
Yeah.
hopefully not.
Why are we under a time constraint, Randy? We can't open it and leave it open while the
You're
planning
supposed
board
to
does the
recess to
site?
a, whenever you
certain.
recess a hearing, you're supposed to do it to a date and time specific.
No, I understand, but if we had to continue that next date, so say that we do what you're asking, which is continue it to December 16th, and then on December 16th, we
Punt it further.
understand and we push it forward again, I think as long as you keep the hearing open, you don't have to rewarrant it.
Yep, you can keep doing that.
We could do that. I guess my only concern is if the neighbors are planning to be here, or
Yeah.
Mr. Walsh, Mr. Staples is going to be here, and nothing's going to happen. It'd be kind of a waste of their
So
time.
why don't we kick it out to January? I'm pretty sure it's going to need to go before the planning board for site plan review.
Yeah, you could. Well, if you want to
When
go
are they
way out.
meeting again? Do you have a?
6 on the 13th?
Yeah, go to the January 13th is what I'd say. Further the better.
Do you know when the planning board meets?
Give the ZBA time
Monday
to do
nights.
stuff.
Every Monday?
We used to in the old days, not anymore.
Yeah, you could do 6:30 PM on January 13th.
All right.
Does that work for you?
I was hoping I'd have to wait a month and a half, but I
No.
mean, if that's what it is what it is.
I'm sorry, if for some reason we find out that the planning board, it's not necessary for you to go before them, then maybe we could move it forward.
Yeah, we got a couple more meetings this month.
It's gonna be
It has
locked
to be
in.
advertised. Why don't we do it for the 16th and then we can...
Do for the 16th.
We can kick it again.
Yeah, do for the 16th.
12/16.
Yeah,
At 6:30?
yep,
6:35.
All right.
35, yeah.
Sorry. No, we have a fee hearing at 6:35.
Oh, for hearing. So just do it for 6:45.
Yeah, 6:45 on Monday, December 16th.
Okay. Everybody got that?
Got it.
All right. I move to continue this matter to December 16th at 6:45 PM.
Second.
Fernando, aye.
Brian, aye.
Mike Clark?
Amy, aye.
Cindy, aye.
Okay, so we will not close the public hearing. We'll leave it open.
Okay,
All right.
so it's time for the neighbors
See you on the
Right.
16th.
also to have conversations.
Right.
Great.
I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Okay.
You can keep that if you like. Yeah, and you can contact Nancy if you have any questions. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Sewer.
Yes.
All right, I'm out here in robot world. Can anybody see you here?
Yeah, we can see you just fine.
Who is that?
Is Bree,
This is Bree Lane. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Thank you. Welcome.
I was trying to connect before. I was wondering if you couldn't vote on it with the contingency of the ZBA. If they did, if they approved, then you would approve.
Well,
So that you could move forward.
we did, the answer is no, but we also did, we've moved on from that, and we're going to keep it
Right,
open.
yeah.
Continue it till
Yep,
December.
Right. I was
Yeah.
trying to connect before. That's all. I understand you voted. Thank you. Have a
All
good
right.
night.
Thank you.
thank you.
Motion to adjourn as the select board and convene as water and sewer commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
We need a roll call vote.
Fernando, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye.
Amy, aye.
Cindy, aye.
So many hats tonight.
That's right.
I
So
know.
many.
Racking up the extra pay, being water sewer commissioners. All right.
A little change at the cemetery, huh?
Water and sewer
Two
abatements.
little changes.
Could we get an explanation from this from our director of, would you mind?
Water and sewer superintendent.
Water and sewer.
Superintendent.
There you go.
I
Mr. Cloud.
promoted you, but maybe,
How you doing?
I don't know.
Mark Cloud, Water and Sewer Superintendent.
Okay, could you explain these abatements? It's Mayflower. or just
Account number
water?
5887. During the billing, an extra number was added somehow, causing it to read extra.
Is
Went
this
from
for the cemetery?
2,232, and the actual reading when we checked the meter was 223. And
Is
that
this
was
for the Mayflower Cemetery?
No, he's
No,
on number
King
2.
Street.
Oh, it's number 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Okay,
That's all right.
it doesn't matter. So you started with, what, 695 Keene Street?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what was wrong with the
So
zeros? on
there was
it?
one extra digit recorded in the billing when we were doing the radio read for some reason.
Okay.
And so that was the reason for the exorbitant amount.
That must have been quite an eye-opening bill.
Yes.
Previous balance, $121.90. Next bill, $3,889.60.
Yes, it was very obvious there was a problem.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with that one?
No?
Well,
Technical
just a
issue,
general,
Yeah.
so the technical issue, so I've been on the board for a while, and up until this year, I don't remember a lot of these misreadings. Are we using a new gadget, or is there a reason that we're seeing these?
We are finding a lot of issues just in the way the accounts were entered. We had many administrative assistants in there, and they were all putting the accounts in different ways that they thought. And so that's where a lot of the mix-up has come from.
And
But not these two.
Excuse me?
That didn't really apply to these two abatements.
No.
Oh, so okay, so there's a couple of reasons that we're seeing these. One is administrative and one, so there's no reason to think that the mechanism, the gadgets that we're using to read the meters they're faulty, or there's a better way, or?
No, sometimes there's radios that are replaced and they're not matched up. So we have a lot of different equipment and different meters. They're not all identical. Some are still the old style. So everything doesn't always match up.
All right, thank you.
So maybe for the residents and for me, so how does this work? And so each house, they're different transmitters and different radios, so how do you
Yep.
go about
So-
figuring out which ones
So
to
most
use?
of them are drive-by meters.
Right.
And they have either external or internal antennas, and they're from different eras. So some of them are 20 years old. We're trying to update those. And then some of them are the newer style where the radio's in the meter itself.
In the meter itself?
Yep. So about 90% of the town is drive-by. And then we have a gun that picks up all the reads as we're driving by.
Thank you.
All right, you want a motion on this one?
I sure do. Go ahead.
I move that the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners approve the water abatement presented in the amount of $3,699.77 for abatement charges at 695 Keene Street.
Second.
Fernando, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye.
Amy, aye.
Cindy, aye.
Right. And could you give us an explanation of the other one for the Mayflower Cemetery on Tremont Street?
The second one is the Tremont Street Cemetery. There was a reading error. The remote reader during the reads for the billing cycle was incorrect. And it took a $40 bill and made it a $4,630 bill.
What are we looking at?
Just because I'm thinking about these errors and the problems that could arise from them, I'm confident that when someone gets a, $4,600 water bill, that they contact you pretty quick and say, holy smokes. But maybe somebody who typically gets a $300 water bill that gets a $30 water bill thinks, yeah, and you might not get contacted. So do you periodically go through and kind of look for anomalies, knowing that these glitches are happening?
Yes, and we do get questioned on a lot of the $300 bills and go back and reread them and check them. And we don't have these kind of issues with the smaller ones.
Okay.
It's generally the large ones that have some sort of error. And we try to catch them before they go out. We'll scan through all the reads and look at the extremely high ones and try to find the problems before they go out.
Well, maybe look for the really extremely low ones too, in case a digit is left off and somebody's getting a good deal.
Well, I'll catch up to them eventually, right?
Is there a way
No, I
to
don't know, maybe.
look at
I don't
percent
know.
increases in various houses as opposed to just looking down the list and seeing a big number? Could you look at like the year before on each of the houses?
We can. I mean, we have 5,600 accounts.
Yep.
So it's hard to really put eyeballs on every account.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there's a way you could do it quickly with Excel or something and then hit percentage, go right to the top and see, whoa, these are this one up 56%, this one up 48%.
Well,
What happened?
Difficult to do that with such a large billing cycle,
Mm-hmm.
twice a year. If it was quarterly, it might be easier to spot ones like that.
Yeah.
And then one's a winter read and one's a summer, so you're expecting a big difference.
I just have a logistical question.
Go ahead.
So who are we billing at the cemetery? Like who pays that bill?
The town,
So the town's paying itself?
yeah.
Yeah, but because it's a revenue generating, it's a, what is it, an
revolving account, or-
enterprise fund or enterprise,
Oh,
right?
okay. Well, we certainly don't want to overcharge ourselves.
No. I smell refund.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm ready to offer a motion.
Yes, please.
I move that the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners approve the water abatement presented in the amount of $4,590.20 for abatement charges at the Mayflower Cemetery on Tremont Street.
Second.
Fernando, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye.
Amy, aye.
Yeah.
All right, now we have a discussion regarding an underground irrigation systems regulation.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So in your packets, you'll see that there's a draft underground irrigation system regulation that we've been working on for probably the last 6 or 7 months. It's taken some time. It's gone around the horn. Brian lended us a hand, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Water and Sewer Advisory Board took a look at it. They were in agreement. I just passed out the information as to why we might be doing this. And as you will see, I gave you a copy of something called the final WMA permit dated October 16th, 2016. And one of the things that Mass DEP considers with public water supply permittees who cannot meet the 65 gallons performance standard to be functionally equivalent and in compliance with their permit if they have an ongoing program in place that assures best practices for controlling residential water uses as described below. And I draw your attention to the highlighted portion below. The adoption and enforcement of an ordinance, bylaw, or regulation to require that all new construction minimize lawn area or irrigated lawn area. Meaning, the purpose of this, as stated in the document itself, is you understand the importance of maintaining the public water supply for the town of Duxbury while maximizing the conservation of our water resources, providing quality water to our customers, and dependable fire flow to our residents. Therefore, the Select Board in this case would be establishing this regulation pertaining to new irrigation systems or the enlargement of existing irrigation systems. And then you have the applicability, the implementation, the violations, enforcement, and penalty section. And yeah, that's the whole shooting match. Council has reviewed it and approved it as drafted.
Mr. Chairman, if I can add some color.
And Mark and Sheila are here too, sorry.
So this applies prospectively only going forward to systems that haven't existed before, so you're putting in a new one that is proposed to be connected to town water, or you have an existing system that would be otherwise grandfathered, but you're expanding it and you're connected to town water. The idea, as Rainey mentioned, is to get that volume off of the town's books so that we're not drawing more water through new systems or expanded systems. And the idea would be you can still water your grass, but you need to dig your own well. And that's what this does. So if you've got one connected to town water already and you leave it the same size, it's grandfathered, although we encourage people who use town water to minimize the use. So we appreciate there'll be technology in the future where there'll probably be lower flow, and would like people to do that. But what you've got today that's connected to town water, you can keep. Just don't make it bigger. And if you don't have one, after this goes into effect, you'll need to drill a well. That's what this is about.
So how would this be enforced? For instance, I brought up at the last time we talked about this, I have an irrigation well that's installed but never been used. So if I started using it
after we implemented this, I would have an increase in my water usage, may make somebody say, and come out to the property, but, I've already, so there's cases like mine, but then there's even easier cases, who somebody doesn't know about this bylaw and just, hooks up a new irrigation system. How do we enforce?
Right?
Well, with regard to anybody hooking up a new irrigation system, it will travel very quickly amongst the installers, because there aren't a lot of them, and the ones that know, the ones that would be working here would know that the regulation is not going to allow them to expand or do new installations. As for enforcement, it's going to be word of mouth. I mean, Mark has some experience with this in Situate, so I would yield to him as to how they did it.
In a circumstance like that, it would be very difficult to catch, but we're looking to catch the new homes or the new construction. When they go in to get a building permit, that's when they would be, they would realize that they couldn't connect to the irrigation system to the water.
When you're going to put in a new irrigation system, like let's say I wanted to do it, which I don't, I don't need to go in and get any sort of a
You do.
permit?
One permit is required, and that's from the plumbing department,
From
and
the
that's for the
plumbing.
installation of a backflow preventer.
Okay.
They're $40.
And so at that time, would I be informed that I couldn't do it unless I dug my own well?
Correct.
Okay.
You can put it in, you just can't connect to town water.
And I think it's a good idea, but it doesn't really decrease the amount of water used.
No.
It's decreases the amount of money, that amount of water that comes from the,
Municipal source.
municipal,
Yeah.
I can't say the word.
And we've had these conversations in the past. I think it's one tool in a toolbox that we should really be thinking about. We need to incentivize drought-tolerant plantings and landscape. And we need to think about limiting lawn size. And Rainey always says, nobody ever wants to. Not in this town, we're not doing that. Well,
That's just a fun discussion that you and I have, Amy.
Well, I think
It's not me
it's-
making policy or
it
anything.
may be time
It's
to really
rhetorical.
have those conversations. And again, incentivizing this type of landscape and low use of water is where I think I think that's the best way to approach it. And I think we already do that now with our sliding scale, where the less water you use, you pay a lower amount per gallon. And then as you increase how much water you're using, that amount per gallon goes up. So, I would like to see, when we have discussions, going forward, maybe some bigger benefits for those people who are, water savers, and, educational things about, using, rain water, and we gotta think outside the box. This has been we had a long stretch of no rain, and it was.
I have kind of some, how do we get here kind of questions. Why are we doing this? I'll just start with that. Why are we doing this?
Well, a big part of it is our water permit. So we're permitted for 488 million gallons of 448 million gallons a year. 2023, we pumped 538 million gallons.
Okay.
So that was quite over our permitted amount. And we also used 83 gallons per day per capita per person, and the DEP is requiring us to be at 65 or less.
How much per person are we pumping?
83?
Okay. Now, for the first part of that, the permitted 500, could we dig another well? There's been would you be permitted for more gallons?
They would still require the 65 gallons per day per person.
Yes, I meant to the big amount.
It's the
Right.
same.
You said-
No, they still want you to conserve water,
Okay.
and everyone use less than 65.
What's interesting about this is we're not doing that with this, because people are just going to dig wells, and the water's coming from the same place.
Mm.
So so what is the benefit to this at all?
So hopefully this will help reduce our residential gallons per day capital.
On our books?
Yep.
But there are probably, I don't know, 1,000 wells around town, people pumping whatever they
Oh,
want.
no, it's not that high.
Okay, how many wells do we have around town?
What do you got, Lauren? Last I counted it wasn't that many.
We have 5, 6.
Currently, irrigation wells around 10 to 12 a year.
10 to 12 a year.
For how long? I mean,
Well, the thing you have to consider when you consider a well, because I've actually done all this.
Yeah.
The price of a well is between $7,000 and $10,000.
Uh-huh.
The price of installing an irrigation system, at least until this regulation comes up, is about $3,600.
Yeah.
But what you get, what you get on the backside of the municipal connection is the fee for the rate. And while it may be cheaper, literally at this moment, to run it off of municipal water, when the new water rate study comes out, it won't be.
Okay.
It will become a severe deterrent, in spite of whatever. And to your point, Amy, the tier structure on volume used, yeah, the minute you put it in an irrigation system, the price starts going up in a real hurry.
Well, and I don't object to that so
No, I know.
much. What I do hope is that the new rate study will again give an incentive for have a real bonus if you're using less.
It'll be structured that way.
What's really interesting is that we actually meet our residential gallons per capital day basically in January, February, and March. And November and December is when our irrigation system the primary use out there. So the new water, we haven't raised water rates for how many years, Mark?
Since 2010.
2010. So the new water rate study will take into account all the investment that's required and upgrades of the existing system, plus also if we have to install PFAS, that equipment, mitigation equipment, that will also be added to the water rate study and eventually the bill that we will receive. So what was your experience in Situate when water rates jumped?
There were a lot of brown lawns. They just shut the irrigation system off. It was costing about $3,000 to irrigate your lawn in the summer.
In Situate?
Yeah, but people figure out other ways, and
Yeah.
well,
Chairman, if I
Go
may.
ahead, yeah.
Just to your point earlier about why, you make a good point about it's all the same aquifer. So what difference? One big difference is the water that Mark and Sheila provide to us is potable. You can drink it right out of the tap. The grass doesn't need
Filtered water.
grass doesn't need fluoride, you don't need that quality water for irrigation, but we have to treat it the same way, so we're just wasting it on lawns where you could have just as good water, so to speak. I mean, we don't filter the rain, and the grass likes that. So that's one big reason. And the other, and this is, I'm glad Rainey passed this out, our water management permit, and this has been an issue across the Commonwealth for as long as I've been practicing law. And it all goes back to the Ipswich River watershed, northwest of Boston, which has been strained for decades. And that's kind of the benchmark. It's whatever you can pull out of the Ipswich River safely is the standard that, in my view, the DEP uses across the Commonwealth. We're sitting on a lot of water here in Duxbury. It doesn't matter to the DEP. We're still, to Mark's point, stuck at the 65 gallons per day, per person per day. Can that change? It would be nice, because we have more capacity here than they do in other parts of the state. But it directly affects our water withdrawal permit as a community. So this is one step, one big step, I think, that will help us, at least on paper, better comply with the written requirements of the water management permit. Sheila or Mark, is there anything you want to add to that, just in terms of the permit itself? Because I think that's an important component to all this.
Well, it's just a matter of time before the DEP makes an enforcement against the town for not taking these steps.
That was what I was going to ask. Have we been penalized for this at all?
Not financially, but every year they ask us what we're doing to comply.
And what does the enforcement look like?
I'm not sure. They haven't
No, but if, are you aware of any other towns that DEP has, they're not complying with their permit and they've,
I am not.
okay, thank you.
One point, Jeff, did you want to say anything? Okay, because Jeff has a point that I think everybody should hear too.
Jeff Chandler in Lincoln Street. I've had a couple of discussions, I think I mentioned this up at your place one time, and I don't understand, well, we're already a large percentage over the water usage that we're allowed supposedly. So that's the existing systems. How is this gonna back that up, for one thing, is one thing I'm wondering about. I wish there was a way, and I don't know how that could happen, is we could, if maybe there's a requirement for existing systems that have any maintenance done to them, to add sensors to them, like I've mentioned to several people. Rain sensors, so it's not running in the pouring rain, and a moisture sense in the ground that if we had 3 or 4 days of rain, we don't need the sprinkler system running, and that would reduce all this water is, like we said, it's all coming from the same aquifer, whether it's going through the meter or it's going through the well. The goal is to reduce that, how much groundwater we're taking out, whether it's DEP regulated or just water coming out of the aquifer. And there are sensors available, and I think it should be a requirement on new systems, even though they're on a well, to measure when it's raining, or sense when it is raining, because I don't know how many times I've gone by a sprinkler system in multiple towns, and it's pouring rain out, and the sprinkler's running, which makes no sense to me from multiple reasons. And also, like I said, if I talked to a sprinkler company where I work, he was winterizing the place. I said, why don't you guys put moisture sensors? Well, you don't need those. I said, well, if it rained for a week and there's 3 or 4 inches of rain in the ground, then why would the sprinkler system be running? He says, well, that's a good point. So if there's enough moisture in the ground, why are we running the sprinkler system? And that would conserve the water, and it may rain again in another 2 or 3 days, and the sprinkler system never has to come on. Are these new systems with wells going to have a signage on them that says they're a well? How are you going to know that it's on a well or not on a well? Just generally speaking, you're driving around town and somebody says, oh, you know, that one's running, but 2 or 3 years down the road, you don't know if it's on a well or not. I have a well at my place. I don't use it for irrigation, just water in the garden, really. And I put my sign out at my place. You know, is that going to be a requirement? If you put in a well and you got the irrigation system, what's going to stop them from running it 7 days a week, 6 hours a day? So now you're really drawing a whole lot of water out of the system. I just think there's things that maybe we should step back. I don't know. I mean, I'm gladly talk about it myself. If this is going to end tonight, it is what it is. You know, there was some things in here for sensors at one point, and a lot of it was stricken out. Those I didn't quite understand how they would measure it anyway, but that's beside the point. What else did I have? Just the sensors. What could constitute a violation, and how are you going to know who did the violation? How are you gonna enforce that? Like, you know, I think somebody already asked that question, and it's tough. I go by house every morning during the summer, and I don't know if it's got a well or not, but there's always I haven't seen asphalt grow no matter how much you water it, but there's always a puddle in the road, and every morning, 7 days a week. Doesn't make, you know, it's not the odd even thing. It doesn't seem to make any sense, but just some of my concerns about this, and I think it could be better. I mean, you know, and if there's any retrofit to any maintenance done on an existing system, can we require some sensors put in there for, I think, relatively short money, and it's saving them money in the long run. I mean, you know, yeah, you put them in, and if they're not getting the, whatever, $3,000-$4,000 water bill because you're watering your lawn all summer, it's money well spent for the consumer, actually, too. So it's just some of my thoughts, and I told you I paid my 2 cents worth, and there it is.
Thanks a lot. I don't know if anyone wants to take those questions.
I'm happy to.
Point of clarity, though, I think, you know, you understand it, but the well and hooking up to the town are 2 different systems. I just want to I know you minced that, but I know you know that. I just want the public we understand that.
We got it. Jeff is right. In an earlier version or an earlier draft, there was a provision for rain sensors, but it was for both new systems and existing systems. So one question was, how do we enforce going back and telling everybody who's got an irrigation system to put in a sensor? I just don't know how that would work. So that was taken out as a logistical issue. But similar, and Jeff makes a good point. We certainly want folks to conserve water regardless of what the source is. And the sensors are definitely a way to do that. The rationale to not including it here was, to your point, Amy, enforcement. How are we going to know who's got a sensor, who doesn't have a sensor? How are the sensors calibrated? We started going down a bit of a rabbit hole as to, not that it's a good idea to have one. It was the logistics of being from the town's perspective. How are you going to enforce that and make sure that, if you're going to write it, we expect people to do it. And if we don't think it can be done uniformly, then it may be better just to leave it out.
Yeah.
But Jeff, you have some?
So if they put a new house, cul-de-sac, whatever it might be, and they have to put in a well, and they're gonna put in an irrigation system, they have to get a permit, correct? Doesn't somebody inspect the fact that they did the irrigation system and they did it correctly?
No.
No.
Only the backflow preventer for the water.
And if it's a
Why is that
well,
not in the regulation?
What regulation?
Well, if we're gonna try to do the water thing, and you're gonna have to get a permit to, if you're on a well, you wouldn't need a backflow preventer anyway.
right.
Right.
Well, what
Correct.
you need is a well permit. That's a different permit.
Right,
That comes from the
okay.
Board of Health. And the reason you're doing that is to make sure you're meeting the isolation distances.
We're not
primarily.
requiring a permit for an irrigation system.
I'm sorry?
We won't be requiring a permit for an irrigation system?
No.
Not the
Except-
system itself, no.
Not the actual layout of the pipe or any of that, no. We never have. Most towns
No, I know
don't.
we haven't in the past. I don't know if that was something we should consider now,
Nope.
because,
But
How are you gonna know?
But the reason that you would apply for if you're gonna put in a new irrigation system, you gotta have the well first.
right.
So the well is where you get permitted there.
So the
Irrigation comes
well,
after.
well drillers are gonna know this bylaw?
Mhm.
Okay.
There aren't that many of them.
So what, I'm still confused of why they would,
To go in.
what's gonna stop the irrigation company from coming in and just going in your basement and hooking it up?
Nothing. Well, the fact that they'd be
They don't need a permit, so that's what I'm
The fact that they'd be
saying.
seen trenching in the
If you
front
don't need a
yard.
permit to put the irrigation system
Jeff,
in,
the
who's gonna?
fact that they'd be seen trenching in the front yard for 2 days, I think somebody might notice.
Well,
And it could cause
One would hope.
them to stop and ask a question.
Jeff, why don't let Mark go ahead and answer the question
Well,
here.
connecting an irrigation system to the town's water supply without a backflow preventer is, I think it's a $25,000 fine. Is that, they're creating a cross connection?
Right, I understand that part, but just, I don't understand. I can pick a remote location where nobody's gonna notice it, just John Q. Public to put in the irrigation system, and you're just gonna, if the company that puts it in doesn't require to have a permit, then how are we gonna know they did it correctly?
And then, a lot of times, our crew will be driving around and they'll notice an irrigation company
Yeah.
installing the system.
Yeah.
So then they'll come back and they'll report it to me, and I'll find out whether they're gonna be putting it on a well or town water.
And then.
And plus, we can send the regulations out to all the irrigation companies. Again, there aren't very many of those either.
Yeah, I know, there's only a
And
few.
the
And
irrigation
they'll-
companies find out really quick that
Yep.
new systems aren't allowed, and they don't wanna risk installing one and then getting caught and not getting paid
Right.
after the installation.
Is there a penalty in here for, there is, and what is that penalty?
It's in the violation
It's
section.
it's a 21D certificate. So it's.
So you first
whatever,
get a
it's
written
300.
warning, and then after 7 days, it's 100, and then after 7, it's $200 each day is a
Well, it
separate
doesn't-
violation.
Really doesn't create a problem,
I,
as long as it has a backflow preventer on it.
Can I make a comment about your concerns about, I think that it's almost self-governing, because once we raise the rates,
Yes.
I think that people are going to be looking for ways to, start saving. So I think that with the sensors, it would behoove them to put sensors in so that if they're using town water, they're grandfathered in, they're not, paying any more money than they need to. So, and I think for people who are putting in new wells,
I think that they're going to maybe use sensors as well because, you know,
It could be common sense, I would agree.
Right.
well, yeah, and their motors are running. It's going to cost them more in electricity, and I think we're all, you know, trying to, you know,
But there's a lot of existing
do what we
systems
can.
there now that don't have that they didn't put them in, that's what when I
Right,
talked
and
to
I
the
thi-
irrigation guy, he says, well, you know, just, you really don't need it, but then, well, if you get a week's worth of rain, then
Well,
what's the point?
it totally makes sense to me, but I think,
Yeah,
I think
they're
that
just making more money on it.
people are going to come to that all on their own with these new rates. And if you're forced to put in a well, you don't want that well running any more than it needs to. So you're going to put them in, and those are the incentives to do it. So hopefully,
We're not going to issue abatements if you use water for sprinkling. And
Yeah.
you don't realize how much it costs. You're
Yeah.
going to have to, that's going to be a lesson you learn on your own.
yeah.
Can I, just 2 points, Mr. Chairman? I think we can wrap this up. One is that even though this doesn't expressly require sensors, the draft regulation does encourage those with grandfathered irrigation systems to reduce the number of sprinklers and coverage areas and to use water-reducing technology or devices currently available or developed in the future. So we don't know what those are going to be, but we want folks, even if they're grandfathered, to save water. And then the other piece that's important to know is that this regulation doesn't supersede outdoor watering restrictions, so those will still apply. So if you've got, if we're in a drought condition and you're hooked up to town water, the fact that you're grandfathered, that just means that you can stay hooked up to town water. It doesn't mean you can use town water when the use is not allowed. And then there's also a Board of Health rule, private wells, section 2.0, regarding, so it's a local regulation pertaining to wells too. So this is a long way of saying this is in addition to things that are already in place, not in place of. We're not knocking anything out of the way, if that helps.
I think Sheila there wanted to say something there.
I do want to point out, there's a reason why we put the rain sensors in the original draft, and that's because that is supported by DEP. Once you've exceeded that 65 gallon per person per day threshold, you have to submit a residential per capita compliance plan with DEP, and you have to do that every year. And there are three things that one of three things that the compliance plan must include. And I don't know if you all have this.
Yes.
So if you look under item 3,
Yep.
A, B, or C,
Yep.
so those are the three, at a minimum, must include at least one of the following. A is a program that provides water-saving devices, such as faucet aerators, et cetera. B is a program that provides rebates or other incentives for the purchase of low water use appliances. And C is the adoption and enforcement of an ordinance, bylaw, or regulation to require the installation of moisture sensors or similar climate-related control technology on all automatic irrigation systems. So that's why we had included that in the original draft, to address the existing irrigation systems and to prevent new irrigation systems from connecting to town water.
Okay.
So that was strategically included for that reason.
Sheila, the first two items on the list aren't covered. We have the Mass Save program that I think we're all familiar with that will come out and, give you the rebates and the low, the shower heads
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. We can't reference that's a Massachusetts program.
Well, we do, but ideally, you want to check all three of these.
Oh, okay.
Because each year we have to submit this to DEP and show what we're actively doing. This, from our perspective, was a no-brainer to add if we were going to put forth these regulations. So
Correct me if I'm wrong, that would make us look a lot better in DEP's eyes also.
that's what I'm getting at. DEP wants to see this.
Okay, so they want to see the moisture sensors in the bylaw.
Yeah, we took them out.
Well, I think Brian had a valid argument why. How do you police it? But it is best practices to be installing these moisture sensors.
So this is a draft. Is there another one final conversation required then with yourself, Sheila, Mark, and Brian then?
I'll add a
Well, I
line.
think
I'll add a line and bring it back.
discussed it quite a bit.
You've got a couple options.
Yeah.
You can adopt it now, and then at least we've got this on the book,
Uh-huh.
and then I can bring it back with another edition.
So, I mean, it's better to have something on the books to
Yeah.
get started, and,
Yeah.
we can always edit it moving forward, but that was why it was in there originally.
Oh, okay.
I know how to add it back easily. That'd be my recommendation.
To add it back, so to vote on it tonight,
Adopt it as it is, and then you can redo it later. We'll add,
but not, okay, so not to adopt it
Tonight.
Contingent
contingent
upon
upon your,
the inclusion of
well, you
the
can, you
water
can do that, now I
sensors.
can just do it, because it's gonna say, there'll be a new number in here under implementation, and it's gonna say, the installation of moisture sensors on similar climate-related control technologies shall be required on all automatic irrigation systems.
And existing?
yeah.
I think for me is
Have to
on
be
all,
existing.
on all
Right.
automatic
Right,
irrigation
and that,
systems.
yeah, that was the argument, well, this is
But when-
primarily
Yeah, because that's what it
directed
says here in
at
the regs.
Yeah,
new
yeah, on
systems
all
not
of them.
connecting.
But I remember whenever we, if the last time we had the drought, right, and we limited to even and odd numbers, the days
That's
and the
every year,
times, right?
yep.
It does say in our, that rain sensors, I can't remember, does it say must be installed? Yeah, I think it says must have rain sensors, right? Oh, sorry, I thought you were agreeing with me. When we issued the ban, okay, nobody remembers.
I don't
I seem
recall
to remember
that, but the ban is a yearly event.
Oh, yeah, and we say
town.
rain sensors must be
And- and it-
installed on irrigation systems in our ban.
So here's how it would read. The installation of moisture sensors or similar climate-related control technology shall be required on all automatic irrigation systems.
Right, and
DEP's going to love that because it's their language.
That will check that box.
Right,
And-
And it's responsible.
Yeah, it's not about checking boxes, it's
So
about
is this on
changing.
all
yeah.
new construction, you said?
No, this is
All.
on all irrigation.
Old
And-
and new.
And, in order to satisfy the program, the incentivizing these things, maybe the town could actually, get a great deal on a bulk amount of these things, and people could, get one at a discounted price, or, we could at least provide information as to where they get them. I mean, how much are these sensors?
A
Are they-
lot.
They're a lot?
Yeah, I have one on mine, and mine's actually runs on an app. They're very different for different systems. They can be very expensive. Because I can turn my sprinklers on right now if I want to.
So we're gonna,
That's why you just kind of leave it,
I-
a blanket
I-
statement, and let them do it.
I thought that these were a fairly inexpensive
You can
thing,
get them on
because
Amazon. I
it
got mine on Amazon.
troubles me to
Depends what you
burden the
buy.
taxpayers more.
It's
Well, they could
Hunter
not use
Douglas.
them.
But remember, the regulations also say that
It's not for new systems, for all.
all well and
not
irrigation
used.
systems
For
connections and
irrigation
modifications shall be at the
systems.
sole expense of the
Yeah,
property
no,
owner.
no, it's
don't have
mine.
to put
We do not
sensors
want to
on.
be in the business of doing irrigation systems.
No, I don't think that's what
It
Amy's
says that
saying.
everything is at the sole expense of the property owner. But I understand the incentive
The
program.
incentive program, right?
Item A on that list, faucet aerators and low-flow shower heads, that is something the water department could purchase and offer to residents. We do have a water conservation budget line item. Other water departments do offer those types
we
of
should
water
be doing
saving
things like
devices.
that.
Maybe that's something that Sheila, you need to think back. and
Just
come
talk to
back.
Mark about that.
Yeah, talk to Mark about
Mark.
that. He just seen his
Come back
budget
on
go to
that.
hell.
I'm curious, when are we gonna see the water rate study
Yes.
finished? I've been hearing, I won't
Yeah,
editorialize. When are we gonna have it?
Beginning of February,
Okay.
target date.
So regarding that study, in terms of seasonal rates, we did ask them to look at that, which a seasonal rate structure would capture irrigation usage. We are not ready for that in Duxbury because we only bill twice a year. You need to have quarterly billing at a minimum to capture seasonal rates, so you can accurately determine where the irrigation season is.
What's to stop us from going to quarterly billing? What's stopping us from doing that?
It's very expensive.
The collector's office isn't ready for it.
The collector's office is not
Yes,
ready for it.
Mary says they need more setup to be prepared to do quarterly billing.
So they could do it, but it's just a question of time. I presume, is there an expense associated with quarterly billing?
Mark, you got it.
Staffing? I don't know.
We're off the
I think it's
reservation.
the time and staffing that Mary
Yeah,
was
Okay.
talking about.
and on our end too, staffing-wise, you really have to have your staff honed in on the billing system, and we do
Right.
have new staff in our
Okay.
water office. So it takes time. It is something we should be working towards.
Yeah.
It also helps the residents because when there's an anomaly, a water leak,
Yeah.
you see that
Quickly.
easier.
So I'm sure this
So-
will be discussed once you come back and present the water rate study to the Water and Sewer Commissioners, right? So
Yes,
at least you know
yes.
some of the questions will be asked then.
Yep.
Okay.
So, but we are discussing it,
Good.
at least at this stage of the rate study.
Yeah.
But I anticipate that something like that would come under future rates when the town shifts to quarterly,
Okay.
so.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
so this draft is intended to be prospective for new systems. What we're talking about tonight is including existing systems, the so-called grandfathered systems. So we can certainly do that, but I don't know that we can, I wouldn't be comfortable moving forward with this draft with changes TBD. I'd like to have the changes before us.
Okay.
And we can vote on that. And I could certainly work with Sheila and Rainey over the next week to get something in the packet for,
January.
okay, I don't think it'd have to be that long, but, because I can, like applicability, for instance, needs some work, Part B, because this was not considering existing systems. And if it is, then it needs some work.
So like I said, you could adopt it tonight as is, have it done, and then we can work on it after the first of the year. Make sense?
I'd rather do it once,
Me too.
rather than have two
Is
floating
there a
around.
benefit to doing it tonight? And
Well, I don't
mean,
think anybody's going to put in an irrigation system this week.
Well,
Or the
one
next month, but
benefit
who
is-
knows?
it-
But now
is-
that people know, the possibility does exist.
Another benefit is with DEP. So we have to do an annual report to DEP
Okay.
called the Annual Statistical Report. It's based on the calendar year. So when we submit our residential per capita compliance plan for the 2024 calendar year, if we show that we have adopted this,
Okay.
that's
when is that
beneficial.
done?
By the end, before the end of the year.
Well, it's statistics based on 2024. Usually it's submitted in February or March.
It will state that the town adopted its policy on this date, right? Okay.
How many years have we been over that, 65?
A lot.
Okay.
Since the Water Management Act permit came out
Okay.
in
So we should vote this
2016.
as is,
So
and then
you
we'll
had
amend it.
2 years to get into compliance. If you were out of compliance the third year, then you had to start submitting this annual residential
That's us.
I don't like
capita
being out of
compliance plan.
compliance, but
Well, we
It
can
is
have
what it
this
is.
done next week or the following week. The changes aren't going to take that much.
Respectfully, it would be January
Why January?
because of the load on the agenda for next week.
Really? You can't just squeeze this one in? We've already talked about it.
You could, but I don't recommend it. We've got the
I'd rather
PFAS
have
we've
one.
got the PFAS working group coming in with their prioritization plan, and then we have my budget recommendations. And believe me, that's going to eat up a considerable amount of time.
We have PFAS and budget on in one night?
Yes.
is there a way we can
that's too
talk
much.
about that? And maybe split that? I'm kind of in agreement that that's maybe,
Well, PFAS would have to be bumped then.
yours is mandated.
I have to do mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is
it
this
just could be a lengthy
It
conversation.
is going to be a lengthy conversation.
Yeah.
Is the
I don't
16th
wanna-
really busy too?
Yes, it is.
What's on for the 16th?
We have a fee hearing. We have recognition of an Eagle Scout, but that doesn't take any time. Acceptance of easement for Cooper Hill Road, then a discussion regarding the Harbor Walk easement with the Rural Historical Society, renewal of a common Vittler's license, and then the compensation and classification study. And I think
Oh,
that may
that's a
take a
big night.
significant chunk of time. That's why I'm saying, if you adopt it tonight, everything will be fine, and we can get it back in January or 6th or 13th. That's my recommendation.
I think we should just do it once.
My preference.
It's going to
but
get confusing.
it's only adding a lot.
I can draft something pretty quickly, but I just don't want to be rushed doing it now, because I think we're going to miss something, and then it'll be to the
Well,
town's
we're-
detriment.
We're sort of in agreement about what we want it to say. It's just a matter of making everything coordinate, right? And so it would be a very quick discussion. You
And we
just-
could always
so.
set up a Friday morning Zoom, another meeting.
Yeah, I think you could slide it in quickly. Take 2 minutes.
I'll do a red line, and we'll put that in the packet, can discuss the changes, if any, and vote on it.
Yep, I respect
be
the
easy.
fact that you want to do it all in one, and you've worked on this, and
Yep.
so be it.
Let's find time on the, not the 6th, which is the one that we have the victualers, is the last one, the 16th, was it?
I mean,
Yeah, let's fit it on the 16th, Renee, if that's okay.
So Sheila or Mark, in terms of the verbiage, rain sensors, is that sufficient? Or do we need to say the soil thing, the moisture sensor in the soil? I'm thinking that the thing that sticks out of the side of your house with the little antenna on it.
That's a rain sensor.
Yeah.
I think we want to use the term moisture sensors.
Yeah.
We should probably go back to the original language and look
Right.
at that.
Okay. I'm happy to handle that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
I know, one last thing, I know we as a town generally try to do things right the first time. I think going back and doing this would be, instead of taking it off, it was suggested at one point, let's get something on the books and then come back and add to it. I would think that would probably aggravate people more than doing it right the first time, so that's just my last word. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks.
Jeff, you should get out while the going's good, Jeff.
All right, we have to step out as water commissioners.
Yep.
I move that the board adjourn their meeting as the Water and Sewer Commissioners and reconvene as a Select Board.
Second.
Requires a roll call.
Fernando, aye.
Brian, aye.
Michael, I.
Amy, aye.
Yeah.
All right.
Surplus items.
We have items to be declared as a surplus. So I'll start with the first one. Steve Studley, the Recreation Director, is requesting that the Select Board declare as surplus the following item that has come to the end of its useful life, a Recreation 2016 Polaris ATV. And I will save the VIN for our clerk. This vehicle has been transferred from the Police Department in 2021 to Rec Beach Ops. It has been out of service and not operable for an extended period of time. So it's been a hand-me-down that is...
Handed down.
Is
no place further down to go.
No,
It's down.
it's down.
Down.
So,
At the end, at the bottom.
does anybody
Not our
have
motion.
any questions?
Yeah, just in case somebody's listening and wants to, so it'll be sold, auctioned, or donated. Who's going to decide on which of those?
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I move to declare as surplus the following: 2016 Polaris ATV, serial number 4XASEA570GA600423, in order to allow this item to be disposed of, sold, auctioned, or donated, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30B, and the town's rules and regulations, with the proceeds to go to the general fund.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have another surplus item. It's from the Harbor Master. I know Jake's here, and he's been waiting to explain this, so I'm going to let him jump on there.
He's having a Cyber Monday sale, it looks like, at the Harbor Master's office.
So, if you can hear me, with the DPW facilities project moving forward, our storage area needed to be cleared out, and these are items that were in that area and have extended their useful life. Some of these are, as as you'll see, are unclaimed property. It's been unclaimed for, some of them been for a number of years. So we're looking to clear some space.
Okay.
Ooh, I'm curious, especially with the kayaks and paddleboards, what are you planning to do for selling those or giving them?
Yeah, typically those would go to the auction company. Same there. I think if we can, we'd hopefully auction all of it for something. Again, I think that's why the mall is so popular, because some people's trash is another person's treasure, so.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have?
And the funds go to the general fund.
Yeah.
Which we need.
Correct.
Right.
Anybody have any questions?
No,
Good?
I think it's 7 unclaimed kayaks, 1 unclaimed paddleboard, 3 dinghies, and 11 rolls of fire hose.
There you go.
And the fire hose is what, up from people's boats, or what, why fire
No, the fire
hose?
department.
It's from the fire department.
Surplus. It was used in, for the edging on the floats.
Oh, right.
for the
Okay,
boats.
got it.
Bumper.
It's the old
Okay.
fabric kind.
Okay.
Cool.
You just
Nice.
use it all.
All
I
right.
move to declare as surplus the following: 7 unclaimed kayaks, 1 unclaimed paddleboard, 3 dinghies, 11 rolls of fire hose. I feel like I should be saying in a partridge in a pear tree.
Sing it,
You
Brian.
could do that.
In order to allow these items to be disposed of, sold, auctioned, or donated, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 40B, and the town's rules and regulations, with the proceeds to go to the general fund. Requires a
Regular
roll
vote.
call.
Second.
Oh, no, it doesn't require
Oh,
it.
it doesn't.
Oh, sorry,
Aye.
yeah.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thanks,
All right.
Jake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
Put that in the only in Duxbury category. Surplus items. All right. Polar plunge. I don't know.
I'll pass
Oh,
on.
you know what? I'm going to, sorry. Town managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple updates for you. First, a quick update on the Powder Point Bridge Advisory Committee. Our office, excuse me, received 10 talent bank forms from people interested in serving on the committee. We received 2 more last week, since my last update. And the interview team, consisting of Fernando, Friendweiler Sr., and Sheila, has conducted 4 interviews so far, with 3 more interviews scheduled for later this week. And I hope to have their recommendations maybe by the end of this week or the beginning of next. With regard to the PFAS OPM, today Mark and Sheila and I met with representatives from Ty and Bond, the engineer, who were the successful bidder on the project, following our notice of award for an owner's project manager for a yet-to-be-determined and yet-to-be-funded PFAS mitigation project. The meeting went well, and we explained that we would be crafting a contract to retain them as our OPM on essentially an on-call basis, meaning that the OPM would be assigned to a project based upon a notice to proceed.
Can I ask what OPM stands for?
Oh, I'm sorry, owner's project manager. For
Thank
any
you.
project over $1.5 million, the municipality in the state of Massachusetts is required to have an owner's project manager.
That's, in the DPW building, we've got terrible
We have an owner's project manager
Yes.
there called CHA.
CHA. The gentleman's name is?
It's changed.
Oh, okay.
It used to be Joe Sullivan, but it's
changed his
another guy.
name?
Talking
Oh,
acronyms.
I didn't know Joe
the-
moved on.
Yep. The OPM process was born of corruption, meaning there were a lot of projects out there that had some squirrely situations probably, 15, 16 years ago, back when Deval Patrick was still governor. And there were some sweetheart deals being made for a lot of state projects, and to stop the fraud from, somebody's uncle was hired as the clerk of the works, money was moved around in weird ways. The state stepped in and said, from now on, we're going to require any project over $1.5 million to have this separate solicitation for an owner's project manager to represent and essentially defend or work on the town's behalf to make sure that whomever they were working for was bona fide and that they were legit. So that's how they describe it at procurement school. But so, yeah, anyways, that's what an owner's project manager is.
Thank you.
Yep. Ty and Bond were in agreement with this concept, and this will help keep a project moving forward, as there are still many steps that need to occur, for which we have funding in the $1 million article, before we get to the designer selection process and seek funding for an actual project, which would not happen until a future town meeting, but we could still be shovel-ready at that time if approved by the voters. Quick update on Duxbury Beach. The Duxbury Beach Access Forum is being held this Wednesday night, December 4th, 6:30 p.m. at DBMS. There was a nice little piece in the paper on it, which read as follows. The DBR has invited representatives from Mass Wildlife, the town of Duxbury, along with State Senator Patrick O'Connor, to participate in an open forum on the beach access on Duxbury Beach. Again, the date is December 4th at 6:30 p.m. Also, the Plymouth County Advisory Board, ARPA funding info. This afternoon, I received a call from Matt Hanley, the Special Assistant to the County Treasurer. The Plymouth County Advisory Board is having a meeting on Thursday, December 12th at 6:30 p.m. at their office on Obrey Street, at which time they will be presenting a number of checks and grant packages to several towns, 4 of which are for the town of Duxbury. Matt asked if someone from the town would be available to attend this meeting. Here's the good part. Attendees for this event are not required to stay for the duration. It would be right at the beginning of the meeting where they pick up the check and the grant packages, stay for a photo op, and then leave. And our select board member appointed to the advisory board is Mr. McGee.
I know.
But if you can't make it, perhaps someone else could.
Well, we have an alternate, and I have a band recital for the Alden Middle School band.
Yep.
And I will be at that.
Yep. Understood.
But I'm hopeful. Maybe I can swing both. Who knows? But I think they overlap.
Yeah, but they probably do.
Yeah, but we'll see.
Anybody else?
We'll make sure
available?
we have a representative there.
Yeah, I am planning, or I'm attempting to go. I've got another event that starts at 5 that runs till 6:30, but I'm going to try to get out of that first one early, especially if they're going to give us money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If any of you free up time between now and the 12th, just shoot me a note. Let me know,
Okay.
please.
We did get an email about it.
Oh, you did?
So we've
Okay,
been
good.
talking about it.
All right. Okay. And finally, I want to wish the Duxbury High School varsity football team very good luck this coming Thursday as they face Situate in the Division IV Super Bowl game being held at Gillette. I have a vested interest in that game, so.
Go Dragons.
Exactly. Go Dragons.
Thursday at 3, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And that's all I got. Thank you. Oh, hey, wait a minute. I want to give you guys copies of the long
I did
range
have some questions on some of, or no, one question really.
future agenda stuff.
So this bridge task force,
Sorry, dude. There you go. Yep.
we don't quite know what their charge or what they'll be able to accomplish. We're kind of setting them up.
We do have a charge.
We have a charge.
We have a charge, but
drafted a charge.
well, we have a charge, but
We do.
being proactive about getting them set. My point being, if we have 10 people interested in it, is there a point to, what do we have it at, 6?
5.
5. Is there a point in, if we have qualified candidates to increasing that number from 5?
If it turns out that the interview team thinks we need more, we certainly could contemplate that. It was set at 5 originally by the board because that number was easy to manage. It's easier to set schedules.
Yeah.
They can travel light, if you will. But let's see what they put together. And at this point, once seated, I'll provide them with as much information as I have from our office to be able to give them and say, okay, gang, here's what they did last time, and you can take a look.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
Amy, hi.
Are you done with that?
Yeah, I mean,
that
my point was
conversation?
more transparency, more community
Absolutely.
involvement. I don't care, if there's a few more people on it. That's my point of
I
view.
agree. I think members at large are a important part of any committee, people who don't necessarily have an expertise in anything, but just are people who are concerned about the town. I have been asking, and I don't see it on this list, and maybe I'm just not seeing it, and it is here, but the revisiting of the sand law that we, with the best of intentions, adopted because we didn't have a bylaw in place. And I've been, there's definitely some unintended consequences with that. So I would like to revisit that.
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
The earth
The
removal
sand
regulation.
removal.
Okay. What do you want to do? I'll be happy to put it on
We
there.
want to I want to revisit that, to look at some other bylaws. Again, there's been unintended consequences to the law that we that we put on the books.
The one you did in November 22.
Yes. And I think that we need to revisit it
Okay.
to look at some of that. And I think it's important to look at some of the other bylaws. I know Cindy had mentioned quite a few months ago that it was brought to her attention that most of the towns that have bylaws regarding sand require that the sand be kept within their own town, moved from one
Yeah.
location to the other. I think that, again, it was with the best of intentions that we adopted a bylaw to serve us, but perhaps we could do better with that.
And to that end, for that agenda item, I'd like Jim W. to be available for that, because he is the enforcement person, and he's
Sure.
the one that issues the permits.
Yeah.
So if they're not in compliance, then I want to know why.
Yeah.
They're still being,
That.
And if we can't get it on the agenda sometime in the near future, I don't know if it's possible to kind of put a hold on the allowance of the sand, until we can get a better handle on it. I'm not anticipating any, a rush on earth moving or sand removal permitting, but I do think that there are some issues.
Yeah, okay. I'll look at the agenda. It's probably January or February, but I'll make sure it's on there.
Yeah, I've got a meeting tomorrow with Jim Waslewski to understand a bit more about what the issues are.
Oh, okay, good.
great.
Could maybe we get it on an agenda just for Fernando to keep us posted as to, I think it would be good to all, we can't talk together outside of this open meeting. So sometimes I think it would be helpful to keep on top of some of these issues that are important to
Yeah,
people.
let's think about that. It might be a way to, we do, I don't know, you have 2 or 3 more meetings here.
Maybe if it's even in the town manager's report, it allows us to get your feedback. I don't know.
All right.
Thank you.
I think that's it. Anybody?
That's all I had, yeah.
Okay. And the DBR event on Wednesday, I'm going to be there. Is anybody else planning on attending?
Artie will be there.
Artie's going to be there. Okay.
The DBR, can you,
So that was the other, Duxbury Beach Reservation has an access event on Wednesday at DBMS with state officials there and members of our staff as well.
Yeah.
Should be good. All right, we have an event permit.
We do, but I'm not going.
I'm definitely not going to this.
I'll tell you,
It's a permit, not an invite.
it should be an absolute requirement of this board.
There you go.
And I mean, as chair, I
You have to go in
Oh,
first
no.
now.
into the
Oh,
motion.
no.
I mean,
We're not going to get that
declare this
motion passed.
essential. All right, we have a polar plunge on 2025, January 1st.
New Year's Day.
New Year's Day,
Yeah, busy.
11:30. I strongly suggest getting there early, because I will say,
To acclimate to the
no,
freezing?
doing it as a team all at once is okay. But trying to show up when everybody's all warm and they get leaving and being like, oh, I'm going to go run in now, is brutal. So show up on the early end. So I'll see you all
Is this a
around
note to yourself, Mike?
11:15, ready to go.
It's
Yeah.
one of those things, hey, is this thing on?
All right, let's have a motion.
I move that Ms. Sarah Murray, as a representative of the Duxbury Education Foundation, is granted permission to hold a polar plunge on Wednesday, January 1st, 2025, beginning at 11:30 a.m. registration to approximately 2:00 p.m. as described in the application materials, contingent upon the conditions of the permit.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
All right.
aye,
There is going to be hot chocolate.
To pour over one's head. To thaw out.
Oh, boy.
So
It's not on my bucket
the
list.
executive session minutes, I'm going to ask again to put this over. I do have some corrections just haven't had a minute to myself to make some edits. All right.
We have some
Announcements.
Okay, 2 announcements tonight. The next scheduled Select Board meeting will be on Monday, December 9th, 2024, at 6:30 PM in the Mural Room. Number 2, Duxbury Beach Reservation Community Forum on December 4th, 2024, at 6:30 PM at the DBMS Clifford Hall. The evening will include short presentations by DBR and Mass Wildlife representatives, as well as discussion by and questions for the panel, which will include DBR, Mass Wildlife, Beach Operations, and Senator Patrick O'Connor. The evening will focus on what was learned from 2024 efforts and what options to increase access may be implemented in the future. If you're unable to attend, please feel free to message the DBR. Your questions and a recap of the event will be provided following the discussion. They are also partnering with the Duxbury Lions Share Food Pantry to collect items of need. A recommended list can be found on their registration page, duxburylionsclub.org.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.